MarkLogic. We are working today or presenting today with one of our great partners at Birlasoft on the topic of modernizing data and analytics for pharma companies. What I'd like to do next is just go jump to the next slide, um, which is going to be our agenda, which we're going to talk about today are the goals and challenges that are addressing companies in the life science and the pharmaceutical industry, taking new approaches in data integration and building applications and analytical applications for the industry, how it works, future considerations, and questions and answers. First thing I'd like to do is to introduce Deepak Gupta from Birlasoft, who's the Director of Data Analytics, and he's going to give you just a real brief overview of who Birlasoft is and what they do. So I'm going to leave it over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everybody. My name is Deepak. I head the data analytics practice at Birlasoft. Birlasoft is a global digital transformation service provider. We are a global company, 12,000 employees across the globe. We're running from 5 different continents, 28 offices. And we focus on 4 unique verticals. Life sciences and healthcare is probably the prominent, and then manufacturing, energy, utilities, banking, financials, and of course, CMT. And we actually work all across horizontals, whether it's digital transformation, data analytics is part of that. We're going to talk about in detail. But we also do ERP transformations, middleware transformation, infrastructure transformation, and CRM transformation as well. Go to the next slide, specifically talking about data analytics. We actually have end-to-end data value chain offerings, right from data platform modernizations, where we move customers from legacy data warehouses, databases to the cloud platforms. MarkLogic, one of them. Data engineering and operations, building pipelines, automate the entire transformation processes. We also do a lot of visualization analytics work, whether it's Power BI, Cognos, Tableau, etc. We have a huge focus on AI data science. We'll talk about that, how it's applicable for pharma as well. Where we have a offering around master data management and data governance, very important concept of enabling the data fabric. And then finally, the data management services for ERPs. 500 plus projects completed, so we have huge experience in this area and close to around 120 assets. Looking forward for the conversation today, Mike.
That's great, Deepak. So really want to talk about is kind of what are the challenges that you're seeing out there? I mean, you have a lot of companies you work with in life sciences and in healthcare industry. What is your take from a large system integrator into the things that they're really trying to achieve?
Great question. And so I'll just cover, I think we have been doing work in life sciences, pharma, healthcare, med device, etc. And if you can move to the next slide while I speak, there are 4 key challenges which we are seeing. And that's actually those challenges are increasing day by day. To start with, the volume of data is increasing. And that increase is not just the structural data, which is coming from enterprise applications like ERP, PLM, CRM, etc. But a lot of unstructured data getting collected, like clinical trials data coming from connected devices, data coming from web clicks. And that's, one of the key challenge the pharma industry is facing. How do we manage this kind of volume of data and utilize this data for the right analytics purposes? That's one. Now, at the same time, the structured and unstructured data is coming up with different complexity of the data type. Now, we've seen data sets where have thousands of columns representing the data metadata of the data. Now, at some cases, that information is not accurate as well. There are some metadata information missing. At some cases where the accuracy of data is not there. In fact, there are a lot of data related to literature, which is completely unstructured, like PDF documents, etc. So managing the complexity of the different data types, extracting the right information of the data, use the metadata for the purpose of enabling the right insight is another challenge we are seeing in pharma. And then comes the problem of data sharing. Of course, everybody is collecting this data. Different partners, like there are partners who actually use clinical trials and generate this data, and there are a lot of PI information available in that, which cannot be shared all across as public information. So there's a huge struggle happening why how these companies share this information across the board, right? How they best create a mechanism where it should not become a bottleneck in order to generate insight for their decision making. And finally, the entire concept of the data governance means while data governance has different meanings for different industries, for pharma, it's very important to understand that how to utilize the information about in the data, that who has access of what kind of data, ensuring the right policies are adhered, ensuring the right compliances are followed, and at the end of the day, the data quality is critically important. So, Mike, these are four critical challenges that we see pharma industry is trying to resolve with the right data management strategy.
It sounds good. Um, so what we're going to talk about now is as you go there and you evaluate a lot of enabling technologies,
Yeah.
why was MarkLogic, or why did you engage with MarkLogic to help solve these problems?
Yeah, good point. So we have been engaged by a lot of life sciences customers. So we, as a service provider, to be honest, like, customer reach out to us saying that, hey, we need a solution to a business problem. And I'll talk about some of those business problems. I talk about the challenges, but business problems where you know we need a capability to manage huge volumes of data. We're talking about trillions of records, petabytes of data, thousands of relational tables, etc. And we were also researching various different products available in the market, and that's where we identified MarkLogic as one of the key solution provider in this area. And I'll cover a few areas where we find MarkLogic has done, I would say, tremendous work to improve the solutions. For example, as I said, volume is key because we're talking about petabytes of data, and use that volume to keep the search still working as efficiently as possible. Because one of the key problems we were facing in the past with other products is, as the volume increases, the performance deteriorates, and that's a key problem which we want to have a solution for. So the search APIs exposed by MarkLogic found to be extremely helpful. Even though we add a lot of customizations, they continue to perform well. Second thing, the entire concept of graph. Nowadays the visualization is the key. We have got a lot of requests from the business community, the data scientists, etc., at life sciences pharma companies, that they want to visualize the linkage in order to understand the data, that from where this information is coming, what this information consists of, the glossary of that information, and how this information is flowing to generate which kind of insight. So again, the entire visualization feature at MarkLogic impressed us. Uh, then the entire concept of, I would say, data quality, which also help us to solve some of the business problem like duplicate checks. In the past, we were facing issues with some of the products where the duplicate checks, either on the patient name or any other objects or attributes, were taking a lot of time. So we find MarkLogic solution extremely beneficial there. And then I would say the entire data document store. Now, as I mentioned, the unstructured data storage was one of the key problem, right? So having the concept of JSON document store was again another hit. I would say MarkLogic has, I can develop that feature, which is very helpful. So again, just to give that brief idea, Mike, some of the key things which makes us recommend MarkLogic to some of our premier customers.
Sounds great. What I'd like to do now is kind of hand it over to Imran to talk a little bit about the MarkLogic platform as an enabling technology.
Yeah. So MarkLogic, as Deepak mentioned a little bit, is does have a lot of capabilities. It is a multi-model database, in the sense of you can bring in data as documents, as rows and columns, as tables, and then you can also reformat it as key value pairs, geospatial information, or just do full Google-like search against it. So those are sort of the underlying capabilities that MarkLogic brings to the table. What we found over the past 5 years was that a lot of our customers were building out what we call data hubs, which is bringing in different formats of data of the same kind of business objects into a central location and then curating that and quality controlling that and producing fit for use data out of it in a very rapid manner. And so what we did is we built out this open source framework that lets you bring that data as is, so you're not really trying to figure out how to model it, but then eventually start modeling and curating and figuring out on an as you need basis. Basically, every 2 weeks you can change your use case, you can change your requirements, and you can get more of the as is data into the curated space. Then what do you do with that curated data? You can build transactional apps on it because we're a fully transactional compliant database. You can also do analytics and BI on it. We have lots of customers in the pharmaceutical space doing that type of work. And you can also build, take that, feed it to machine learning, and build AI-based applications. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well later in this webinar. And then also, because we can reformat it to pretty much any shape you want, you can send it to multiple downstream systems and have sort of a single source of truth that the whole enterprise can use. Getting the data from the as is to the curated, there's a lot of things that can go into it. One is you can make it look the same, which is the harmonization part. You can make the tags or the column headers look the same, but you can also make the content look the same. And you can use semantics or basically industry-specific ontologies or vocabularies to help with that content harmonization as well. But then the semantics also lets you look at things in a very graphical or business relevant relationship point of way. For example, you can have a set of members that have been exposed to this drug or this chemical, that have been treated for this disease, that have been seen by these providers or are part of this study, right? Those are all business meaningful relationships that we can very readily capture. And then again, because we store stuff in a hierarchical manner, you can store governance, reference data, and metadata within the same record as the actual content itself or the actual data itself. And finally, whenever you're bringing in data from multiple places, you have this problem of, is this the same business object as this other business object that came from someplace else? Lots of companies use external CROs. The IDs for each patient might be different. And the ability to say, hey, these two different IDs are the same because all of the other relevant information about the patient matches is also built into this data hub platform. And there's a lot more under the hood, but I guess this is good enough for now.
Okay, very good, very good. Thanks, everyone. So going into some of the very use cases of things that both organizations have been able to solve. We really kind of drill down on some of these particular use cases within the pharmaceutical industry. A research hub, real world evidence, pharmacovigilance, clinical data hub, supply chain visibility, and regulatory compliance. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and let you guys talk about this now.
Sure. In real world evidence, we have a very large customer on the East Coast doing this in the sense of they have like well over 1,000 data sets that their data scientists and researchers can use when they're doing virtual studies or combining it with real studies. And they used to take about 4 to 6 weeks to figure out which set of studies might be relevant. And then they would start trying to use them and then start figuring out, oh, maybe this one doesn't have the right data in it, and so on, right? What we did here was we pulled the metadata about all of those data sets, and that roughly ended up being 100 million patient data points and drug data points that were there. Then we also combined that with semantics. So this drug is part of this class, has this kind of brand name, this kind of generic name, right? So those are all very pharma specific semantic relationships that are important in discovering the right data set. And then now the data scientists can use this semantic search capability to hone in on data sets within seconds as opposed to weeks.
Thanks, Imran.
Another use case is research is always happening around the world. Research papers are always being published, and the because of the regulatory environment we're in, it's really important for pharmaceutical companies to understand whether a research paper is bringing out a new adverse event or new adverse reaction to a drug that they sell into a specific marketplace. And the problem here is multiple fold. One is you first have to look at all the literature. Two, you have to sort of filter it out by adverse events. Three, you might have to filter it out by, hey, is our product in there? Two, and then four, you might have to say, well, are we actually marketing this product in the geospatial area where this publication is? And then you get sort of that list of candidate events, and that sort of rapid decrease of thousands of published literature down to the few hundreds that might need actual review and further processing is what MarkLogic can do and does very rapidly. In this particular use case, the company also took that sort of smaller subset of data and fed it into a machine learning and AI stack to figure out the places within the document that represented the highest probability of the adverse event being found and reported and marketed and so on, right? And then just those pieces are highlighted and submitted to the actual reviewers. Basically, think of this as a cyborg environment where the MarkLogic search capabilities and the machine learning provide the humans with much more efficient review capabilities than they would have been otherwise.
That's great.
Right. Also, another use case is studies are being done by pharmaceuticals all the time. In this particular case, the biological and toxicology studies were hard to find, manage, rediscover. You want to reduce duplicate studies. You also want to rapidly have people find the right studies so that they can build upon them and do further studies that make sense. And so being able to have that in a single unified repository with semantic search capabilities, with hierarchical search capabilities, with sort of ad hoc relationships versus structured tree-like relationships are all built into this repository, and it's being used actively by lots of end users in a very large pharmaceutical company right now.
Yes. Thanks, Imran. Let's move forward. So, what would you guys both see the unique value being working with both Birlasoft and MarkLogic to solve problems within the pharmaceutical industry?
I'll cover that. I'll tell you, some of the things which we find as service providers in the life sciences space for data and analytics. I think there are key four things which MarkLogic's definitely created an impact. Uh, One is this entire document store, and I think Imran covered one of the important use cases which we have seen as well, the pharmacovigilance data, the data coming from these adverse events, and in fact the literature, uh, which is extremely huge in size. Now, I just said, the pharmacist doesn't have time to read through all of that literature and create a summary. They need a mechanism to search on certain keywords, right? That's where the search APIs is extremely important. So, that's one use case to act as a document store where, they can just load the raw data from anywhere else and then use a search APIs to create a first level summary. And then on top of that, you can actually run the AI engine to create summarized descriptive report or predictive report. So extremely important use case where MarkLogic plays a huge role. Second thing is the entire concept of triple store, where see, bringing the raw data is one thing, but ability to create the indexes on all the three kind of, I would say, data element or metadata elements, where it's subject, object, or predicate, right? We're talking about millions of records, and creating these triple store where you can search on either of them and create the right literature, or I would say summarized literature out of it, is very, very critical in most of the use cases in the pharma industry. The entire concept of defining these triples is another area where we feel we have seen a lot of pharma companies has utilized that feature. And as I mentioned, that the concept of the knowledge graph, where we are correlating the entities, whether it's information about the PI data to the clinical trial data versus the product information versus the adverse events. So create a knowledge graph of all of that, help the data scientist to, as part of their research mechanism or model creation, be also the pharmacist while they respond to some of the queries from FDA. So again, it's important use case. And then finally, what I also find based on my our research is these APIs which MarkLogic made available can be utilized for a lot of automation. For example, we have used with some of the customers to automate the entire validation of data process, duplicate search process through building some RPA bots by using the APIs available in MarkLogic. So the entire process is automated. Without any human intervention, you can actually do a validation of your data. And without human intervention, you can do a lot of duplications, which I think Imran also mentioned, the entire curation piece can be automated. So again, we find these four important areas, Mike, Imran, uh, which pharmaceutical companies can definitely utilize.
That's awesome. Armand, do you have anything to add?
I think Deepa covered a lot of good points on this slide, so I think we're good.
Good. So looking toward the future, what are the things that the market's asking for? What are the things that the people like Gartner are asking for us to research? So what things are coming down the pike, guys?
Yeah, so I'll take a crack at this. In terms of data that lives in multiple silos and the different kinds of data, the ability to access that data in a uniform way and be able to look at that data across the different modalities that it makes sense to look at that data is something that has been growing in the industry, and data fabric as a term has been coming up more and more, and the ability to take data that lives in multiple silos, do and build a data fabric out of it, either in MarkLogic or within the other books of record or the other silos that they exist in, as long as you can bring in the metadata that you need to actually discover that data, uh, very much the way Google indexes the web. You can do that with your own private data, and building out that sort of data fabric for knowledge discovery, knowledge dissemination, research as well, has been a very sort of important direction in which pharmaceutical companies are heading. Also, when it comes to data engineering, the thought process here is that you want to build out data as a service. You want to think about your business objects of interest as separate data domains that can then be published and utilized by the rest of your enterprise with the appropriate security controls built in, right? You definitely don't want to expose it to everybody, but just the people that need to use it for their day-to-day jobs. So that sort of building out a data platform and building out business objects that are important to your organization is something that has been top of mind for a lot of our customers. And then once you have this data platform and data fabric, you certainly need to put it to full use. So data science and AI is again another very hot topic, and MarkLogic has been playing a very active role in feeding the right data, the rightly tagged data, to the AI machine, so that the AI can be more efficient in terms of its processing and better in terms of its recall and specificity of the data, right? So those are kinds of things that a lot of future looking companies have been working on. Deepak, over to you.
Oh, absolutely, and I'll just echo that. I think the everybody's trying to scale AI in pharmaceutical world. Okay, now I think the value of AI has been understood, but the scale of using AI to for every possible use case is what's happening in the pharmaceutical world. And then for that scale, you need a good data management platform, which I think MarkLogic is on the right path. B is the ability to have the right engineering mechanism in place to bring the data from different structure and structure sources, as well as have the data fabric for metadata governance. So I would say the combination of the entire data management architecture followed by a layer of data fabric, and then of course the ability to scale through AI is where the data analytics future in pharmaceutical industry is going.
Thanks, Deepak.
So this particular slide talks a little bit about the details of how artificial intelligence and MarkLogic tend to work together. On the left hand side, you have the key core business, the key core data objects that MarkLogic can handle and process in real time in a transactional way. So there's documents, there's key value pairs, there's tables and columns, there's graphs, there's property graphs and triple stores, right? So those are the kinds of things that MarkLogic can do. But then MarkLogic also has another product that is called Semaphore, and in Semaphore you can capture subject matter expertise and put those into and govern and very rapidly create knowledge graphs that are available for again the real-time processing. Also, as part of the Semaphore team capabilities, Semaphore group capabilities, natural language processing, the ability to understand what are verbs, what are objects of relevance, how often those relevant objects occur in the content, those sorts of things is built in. And then using the knowledge graphs and the NLP, the ability to extract entities, fact extraction from complex PDF files like tables, like this table is about the toxicity of this particular drug, right? That ability to extract that and make that structured data out of unstructured data is again also a capability that exists. And then so that lets you build out very well designed, fit for use, fit for search and discovery content and data. And then so that then in the AI world, you can basically in real time say, hey, give me all patients that have had a heart attack and have been discharged from a hospital in the last and were then sent back to the hospital within 30 days, for example. Right, you can do that kind of a search. You can get that answer in real time. You don't have to sift through 100 million patient records. You can just get, okay, here's a list of 100,000 records that match my criteria. Then when you feed that to the AI, because the AI machine learning systems are now dealing with 10 3 or 4 orders of magnitude less data, they will operate much faster. They will create those insights, they will build out those models, and then the output of the models is essentially new metadata or new relevant attributes that can then be fed back as updates right back into the operational data store that can then be operated on in real time. So this sort of this graph, this slide actually gives you a really good view of how AI and MarkLogic work together to very rapidly progress the AI learnings.
Thanks, Deepak. So how both organizations can work together to help solve problems in the pharmaceutical industry? And I'll just leave it to you guys to kind of talk this between yourselves and share it with the group.
Yeah, I can start first, and Imran, maybe you can add on. So I think as a group, right, MarkLogic and Birlasoft, first of all, we have proven results in pharma industry, right? We talked about some of the case stories already in this webinar, and we also talked about the need of the right data management strategy together with data governance is extremely important to make the data available for AI and all. But we are seeing that it's extremely important to look at the key trends which we are seeing, things like getting a concept of analytics, or I would say acquired governance or adoptable governance, ability to have the business users to adopt the policies coming out through a governance organization or tool. The entire concept of master data management is where uh, we see the data management is critically important. The movement from the old traditional way of dashboards, which were written on old data warehouses and all, to more like a descriptive, predictive reporting, or I would say storyboards, is a trend which requires good quality data management. Uh, and in fact, we are seeing that the usage of AI is going to increase as I talk about, and it would be highly possible. And in fact, Gartner also come up with some of the trend where close to around 50 to 70% of people start using AI, even though their organization is not mandating that. Which requires them have access to good quality data, ability to search faster what they need. And then of course the entire concept of data as a product. Every organization, if you ask me, the top mandate from the CIO is how do I monetize through my data. There are a lot of information I'm collecting, uh, internally, externally, a lot of information I am transforming. How do I monetize it in addition to internal usage? And that's one of the area where define having a right data management strategy is critically important. Imran, over to you to pick few
Sure.
more.
So I would say that the key to all of the things that Deepak described is what I would tag or call data agility, and basically the ability to take your data, reshape it, shape it the way you need it, make it fit for a specific use case, be confident that that use case will be usable is sort of the foundation of a data engineering and data as a product roadmap. And 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 I think that the ability to match agile development practices with agile data will supercharge your ability to take advantage of the data that you have.
Excellent. All right. So, uh,
I think
Mike.
that kind of is going to wrap it up for us today. We'll be addressing any questions you might have via the chat. This is also a recorded presentation that you can go back and learn things from. If not, please feel free to reach out to either our colleagues at Birlasoft or us here at Progress MarkLogic. If you have any questions about the platform or consulting services uh, and how we can address your needs in the pharmaceutical industry. This will wrap it up today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.